Well, we are here for what I would consider probably our most controversial episode. Already based on Logan's reaction, I know that this will be highly controversial at some point, and I am very excited to see how the response is to it. Welcome to the Rocky Top Rundown. My name is Alec. With me is Logan, and tonight we are talking top five quarterbacks or top 10. We will end up doing top 10, but top five quarterbacks in school history. And before that, we have a baseball coaching hire to talk about, and we'll get out of here. But Logan, how you doing? How are the animals?
Dude,
Another
how do I
another ER
say?
visit.
Doing all right, but freaking the dog, I had to take the dog to the vet. Nothing wrong with her. Had a long toenail that was poking her in the paw, I guess, and that's why she was limping around and stuff. So
mm,
she got her nails trimmed and is okay now. I don't know, whatever. Freaking dogs, man. It's
Gotta get your
ridiculous.
dogs groomed, man.
I guess. Ridiculous.
Man, well, yeah, so before we discuss football and hop into the popular conversation right now, which is ranking all-time players and things like that, Logan, Tennessee baseball, Josh Elander makes his first fire and hire within a couple days of each other, firing Josh Reynolds as pitching coach, which I don't think was a surprise. I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast yet, but or if we did, sorry, I don't remember that. I don't believe that we did. But it's the pitching, just the bullpen wasn't good enough this year. The starters, your top three, were consistently fairly. They were good enough. Your bats couldn't back them up. And then Arv um, and Appenzeller, they had their moments of brilliance, but then from there it dropped off and it just wasn't good enough. And so Elander makes a move, fires him, and goes out and hires Eastern Carolina's pitching coach Austin Knight. Which I texted you this, but if you can't beat them, hire them, I guess. And so as ECU's pitching coach, this was starting this year, going back to 2022 when he took over. The ERAs went 4.23, 5.15, 4.05, 4.34, and 4.26. So pretty consistent with mid-major talent. Having there is consistency there, and good pitchers come out of there, and you would think that ERA is probably bumped up by the back end really not being good enough at points, which you would hope that Tennessee can go out in the transfer portal and get some depth. So really an exciting move, and I think overall probably going to be a net positive for Elander's program as we move forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was just a weird year, so I'm not going to say you had to make a change, but I mean, if you were going to make a change, this was the change you had to make.
Yeah,
Um, and you went. I know some people are upset that you can go get a guy with a bunch of SEC or just experience in general. But it's a guy that has proven to have success at the level he's been at. He's a son of a coach. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame high school coach, but he's a big time um big winning high school baseball coach. So this is kind of in his blood.
yeah,
What is what I've seen, what I've heard. So and I mean, you saw how effective his best arms can be
yeah,
because you sure didn't do a whole lot against him.
correct.
Um, so
And that's with
I
talent that
think,
wants to go to ECU, Eastern Carolina. Like
yeah,
what happens when you give Austin Knight Tennessee baseball resources?
yeah, no, for sure. And I like how I saw where one of ECU's beat writers was like, he's a guy that he likes his pitchers to use the whole strike zone. So we may hit more batters, but we're going to pound the ball inside. We're going to use the outside, up, down. They're going to change locations, all that stuff. And he's really big on the splitter cutter stuff. So I think we're going to start seeing guys throw a lot more splitters, which can lead to some more arm issues.
Right.
But it's also absolutely disgusting if you have guys that can throw that splitter off a fastball tunnel.
Right.
I mean, so
I mean, what was that against? Was that against VCU? One of their pitchers had a splitter that none of our guys could touch.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and I'm sure the ECU guys did because he teaches all his guys the splitter stuff. So,
Right.
um, yeah. So I mean, I think it's a good hire. I know a lot of people are excited about it. I know a
Yeah.
lot of even I think Mike Wilson posted on the VolQuest board that on the way back from Chapel Hill, he told Eric Kane, the other VolQuest guy, that hey, if he was to make his change, he should definitely go hire Austin Knight.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, a week later, sure enough, he did it. So I think there's a lot to be excited about with this hire. A young guy, up and comer, who's shown that he can be successful. Now,
Yeah.
can he step up and be successful in the SEC? I don't know. We'll see. But he sure had success against one SEC team. His guys pitched against the last week.
Yeah, but I think it's also like, and tell me if I'm wrong, Logan, but I feel like baseball is a sport where it's not like basketball or football where the jump up is just this other world. You know, because you look at the field of Omaha, there's consistently at least one smaller school. You know, like Coastal Carolina has represented the Sun Belt. Sun Belt's getting represented, and Southern Miss. Sun Belt's getting represented again by Troy. Go Trojans! Shout out to my wife's family. But you know, I think that you know, saying, "Hey, he doesn't have experience against good arms." I mean, his arms this year uh, tied North Carolina in a series. They won the second game and tied the third game at the beginning of the year. And you know, it's just I don't know. It's one of those things where in baseball, teams can get around and play. Like you can go back and look, and I'm just looking at this year, but you could go back and look, and I'm sure Eastern Carolina has played plenty of high level competition, and the pitching has been good enough to win in those games because Eastern Carolina is a team that has felt like they're in serious contention for a trip to Omaha, and have gotten to the Supers 2 of the years that he has been there. I think one year he's still in a analyst, but then in 2022 they made Supers when he was the pitching coach.
Yeah,
So you know they haven't gone to Omaha, but they've been competitive in the postseason.
yeah, sure. And I mean, I think it's probably a little bit overblown. Like, I mean, baseball. You're right from the standpoint of that baseball is different than kind of some of these other sports, especially football. Like baseball is broader. Like
Yeah,
it's more spread out talent wise. Like you have good teams now. Like obviously pitching at ECU week to week is different than pitching in the SEC
right,
from week to week. Like your competition is not as like the conference is not as good as a whole, but like you'll still play good players and things like
right,
that. So like there's something to be said about the argument of well, let's see him doing the SEC because it is a deeper conference, top to bottom.
right,
Like it's not like you're just playing absolute scrubs every week. Like you're
right,
still, you know, playing pitching against some good hitters. So
right,
you know, there's something to it, but it's not as big of a deal as oh, let's see this guy do it in basketball coming from
right,
the A10 to the SEC, or in football coming from the Conference USA to the Big Ten, or something like that.
right. No, agreed. Last thing that we touch on before we move on: are you disappointed that Dave Serrano was not more? I guess I don't want to say strongly considered, but you know, I saw that kind of gaining some traction on
You're
online.
the first person I've ever heard mention Dave Serrano. I hadn't seen any of that.
Really, I saw
Uh-uh.
multiple posts saying that Elander should go after Dave Serrano as pitching
No, I hadn't
coach.
heard that.
Yeah,
Huh. No, I didn't even know. Is he even a pitching guy? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
Huh.
I don't
Interesting.
know if that was his background before becoming Tennessee's head coach, but that's what people were saying. So I was just curious what you thought, but
I mean,
uh,
he may want to get back to big time college baseball, but I mean, I don't know. I'd have a hard time leaving what he's built at Johnson right down the road,
right,
winning the
yeah.
national championship and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, but yeah, no, that's the first I've heard of that. You saying
Yeah.
it?
So, but baseball's in the middle of the portal. They've already gotten one commit from Mercer, and it looked like one of Mercer's better hitters on a team that was wrongfully snubbed from the tournament,
Let's
as
say,
far as the analytics say. So that's a huge get. They've hosted a couple different guys that are all big bats.
you know, he's a two way player, right?
I did, yeah, I saw that.
Okay. He touches
What?
97 with his fastball.
Well, then why would we ever put him in the field?
Oh well, that's what no, they'll play him both because think he hit like 20 something home runs and had 60 something RBIs this year.
Oh, I got you. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
but he had a bunch of appearances, but most of them were in relief. So
Right.
he'd be an improved version of Blaine Brown from the standpoint of like he's more refined as a pitcher.
Yeah.
You'd actually put him in relief roles and let him pitch in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
The guys that have come in for visits or are potentially visiting, I don't think I've seen a batting average below 325 yet. As far as when stat lines get thrown out, and so definitely they are going out looking for good hitters.
A lot of OBP guys.
Yeah, and so it should be exciting. There's a lot of I've only seen the one commitment, so it just doesn't seem like enough to discuss at the moment. When we've got all summer, so let's not rush it, and we can evaluate when there's more guys. But overall, positive trend for the program. Speaking of positive trends. We're on a positive trend. Hey, thank you guys for listening. If you are enjoying it, please like, share, subscribe, do all the things. You never know what conversations can be brought up by sharing a podcast with someone. And it's not hard to know if someone's a Tennessee fan. If they are wearing the orange that Logan is wearing, probably a Tennessee fan, because why else would you wear the orange? I love Tennessee orange. Logan, we've talked about this before, but outside the context of being a Tennessee fan, I feel like it is one of the most hateable colors possible, which is also kind of why I love it, because it is distinct and unique. So anyways, all that to say, if you see someone wearing Tennessee orange, just share the podcast with them, because they're probably going to appreciate it. So with that, Logan, let's talk about top 10 top 5. We'll run through the top 10, but we're really going to focus on the top 5. We'll move through our bottom 5 quickly, but top 10 quarterbacks in Tennessee history. Now, let's just go ahead and put some parameters on this before we hop into it. It is a culmination. This is a culmination of stats, accolades, skill, things like that. We didn't necessarily discuss this, but this is the approach I took when doing this, was where they were in the history of football should not negatively impact them. So, if a guy played in the 60s and his numbers are insane, it makes sense to move him up, because in the 60s, you didn't really throw the ball that much. On the flip side, some of Heupel's quarterbacks, maybe they don't make the list because offenses are wildly different now than they were 20 years ago. So it's a give and take, because there are some quarterbacks that I'm like, man, if they were in Heupel's offense, that common conversation is Josh Dobbs in Heupel's offense, what could he have done? Or just that whole offense that they had,
Say the quarterback you want to put in Josh Heupel's offense. Say it. Just light people up.
Just light people up?
Yeah. What's the quarterback you really want to put in that offense?
I don't know that I've ever said that, but I mean, I would be wildly interested to see what Garantano would do in
Josh
Heupel's offense.
There you go.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it just... I know people... Which, you know what? Let's just get in the list, because at number 10 for me is Jarrett Garantano.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Quick preface. 1, I did it just to piss people off. 2, you look at this man's numbers. This man's numbers are some of the best in school history. Not top 10, or not top 5, but
I am a huge JG supporter, and I don't even do that.
I look at his numbers. Oh. He is number 7 in completion percentage. He has one of the lowest interception percentages and one of the highest completion percentages. All that while having a different offensive coordinator every year and being in some of the worst teams in school history. Like, I have never understood the hatred of him at all. But I'm also like, yeah, what does happen if he has a competent offensive coordinator that is the same play caller for him every year as Tennessee's starting quarterback? Oh, and also when he's not being subbed out every 5 seconds because they're calling 2 completely separate different offenses, whether it's him or Dormady in at quarterback. So I just think that his circumstances, I think he is one of the most mistreated quarterbacks in Tennessee history, as far as people do not give him the respect because they don't take into the consideration the full context of what he was dealing with. I mean, Is there a more frustrating outside of Butch Jones? Is there a more frustrating name to bring up in Tennessee coaching history than Jeremy Pruitt? You could maybe say Lane Kiffin, but like Jeremy Pruitt, just when he's your head coach, what are you gonna do? So I put him in at 10 just because I wanted to be completely honest. So, anyways, we don't need to do a in-depth analysis of all bottom five, but felt like I need to throw out that out there. And then I kind of questioning this one because when we said we were going to do 10, I forgot. I did not look at my list. But anyways, I had Tyler Bray at number 9. So I have no explanation for that. I think that is pure nostalgia, just because I remember just what the offense was. And
I think it's around.
Do what?
That they could sling it around. I mean,
Yeah.
he couldn't read a defense, but boy, could he throw the pill around.
Correct. So, anyways, that's number 9, number 10 for me. Who are your 10 and 9?
Well, hang on. Go ahead. And give me 8 and 7 and 6, and then we'll alternate with her top 5.
All right, that's fine. I went Dobbs at 8, and Ainge at 7, and Holloway at Condrich Holloway at number 6.
Well, now I'm curious. Who's your number? Oh, okay. And then I know your number 5. Okay. For me, I've got Tony Robinson at number 10. So he played quarterback in the 80s.
Yeah.
Was all SEC one year. I think as a junior, he was all SEC. As a senior, I think he was in the Heisman conversation and then blew out his knee. And they were pretty good back in the 80s. They had the Sugar Balls during that decade and some other stuff like that. So yeah, number 10 for me would definitely be Tony Robinson. Number 9 would probably be I'm probably with you on number 9, probably Tyler Bray. Those teams were terrible. Like I said, he really probably couldn't read a defense, but just prolifically, I mean, those offenses were good. I mean, they had the number 3 offense in the country his last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he could just absolutely throw the ball. That team would probably have competed for the SEC. I think they averaged. I want to go back. Let me just look that up real quick. I'm not going to look it up, but I know for a fact that they averaged almost 40 points a game, if not more.
You're talking about in his final year of 2012?
Yeah, in his last year.
I'll look at it for you. Keep talking. I'll let you know.
So, that was with Cordell Patterson, Justin Hunter, Zach Rogers. Rajon Neal, I think, was the running back. Like, that was a loaded offense, and he was just as much a part of it as everybody else. So I think he'd be my number 9.
They were at 36.17.
Okay, so they're right there around 40. Okay, yeah. Number 9. Number 8. I'm going to give number 8 to Josh Dobbs. I think you can throw him and Ainge right there together, because I will say Josh Dobbs was really close and may have broken Peyton Manning's all-time school yardage record from the quarterback position. Now, obviously, his was rushing and passing, not just passing. And he led some good stuff. He was the reason that they won some of the games they did, but they also never made it to Atlanta. I think their best season was like a 9-win season. I don't think they ever hit 10 wins. I think they went 8-4 and 8-4.
Yeah.
So I'll give him 8, and then I'll go Eric Ainge 7, because I don't know if he's still third all time, but at one point he was third all time in passing yards for Tennessee.
Ainge is currently still
third
behind Clausen and Manning.
And they were able to make it to Atlanta a couple times, even though they never won it. So I'll give him 7, and then this is crazy. So I guess I'm not really far off of what your top 5 is going to be. So excuse my reaction earlier. And then I've got Condrich Holloway number 6. Condrich Holloway number 6. He's one of those that if you put him in this time, it'd probably be a whole lot different. Obviously, that's before our time. I've only seen highlights. People talk about the Artful Dodger. Dude was tough as nails, though. I know that.
Yeah.
Got hurt, had to be carried off the field or something close to it, and then just comes running out of the locker room later on in the game and leads the team to victory. Electric. Could run it, could throw it, all this stuff. So just off the lore, I've got him at number 6.
Yeah. No, I think that's also, again, I would be very curious to see what Holloway, what he would do. Ainge, I kept out of the top five simply because, honestly, if you're not good enough to win the battle for your first 2 years, I know we were just texting about it, but that was kind of my logic of keeping him out of the top five, even though statistically he is one of the top five quarterbacks.
And I will say, you think about this, he is one of the top five quarterbacks in 2 separate years.
Yeah.
He was a part of a 2 quarterback system.
Yeah.
Because his freshman year was him and Brent Schaefer, and he ended up taking the job later on the year. And then what was it, 06? Which was that his sophomore year or his junior year? I think it was his junior year.
Yeah, go ahead.
He goes dual quarterback system with Rick Clausen, and they go 5-7 with their preseason
05.
top 10. Okay. They're preseason top 10. And if you hear people like Jason Swain and some other people talk about it, Clausen should have won that job. He was better than Ainge in camp. But Fulmer, North Carolina and USC in the baseball regionals distracted me. North Carolina had a home run go just foul to tie the game in the bottom of the ninth. Clausen won that job in the preseason, but Fulmer played them both anyways, and most of the team wanted Clausen, but Ainge had some of his guys, and it was just an absolute chemistry locker room disaster.
Yeah.
And they go 5-7, which was kind of the first downfall of Fulmer losing his job anyways.
Right.
So, but all that to say, my point to that was he steals the third most in school history and all these stats and stuff while being a 2 quarterback system 2 of his years.
Right.
So that there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. And I followed up on Dobbs breaking Manning's all-time yardage record, and he was not close. He was. I guess the conversation may have been he was getting close, but if I did the math right, Dobbs ended all of his yardage under 9,500 yards total, whereas Peyton threw for over 11,000, which is wild because he hit 10,000 with like 3 games left. And now all this is according to SportsReference.com.
That's great because in the bowl game is when he was close to it. He was like 36 yards away from Peyton Manning's all-time yardage record.
Maybe in a season. But I
don't know. Maybe so.
I don't know. So, all right, let's move into the top 10. And so, for me, Logan, some things that I just want to throw out there as kind of my tiebreak as I'm looking at these was, one, what was your record against Florida and Alabama? Because those are 2 programs that you can consistently use as a benchmark because they were consistently good across all of these players' time as QB. Georgia, you could have thrown in there, but Georgia was not Alabama of Saban's time or Florida during the 90s and then at one point in the 2000s. So, I didn't throw Georgia in there, and then also made sure that there weren't a ton of losses that you shouldn't have had. As I was looking at this, oddly enough, I know it gets talked about, but the amount of times Arkansas beat Tennessee, and it's weird. So,
I also messed up.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
I need to move everybody back one. So Tony Robinson is 11.
Okay.
Tyler Bray is 10.
Okay.
Josh Dobbs 9.
Okay.
Eric Ainge is 8. Okay.
Conrad Holloway
is 7.
Okay.
And Hendon Hooker is 6.
Okay. Cool.
So Hendon Hooker is 6. I mean, he brought Tennessee out of the abyss. He did a 15-year streak to Alabama, beat Florida, led the most prolific, one of the most prolific offenses in school history. Should have been a Heisman finalist, but was not, which is one of the reasons I have him at 6 as opposed to in the top 5.
Right.
And it was only, they were average his first year. Now, part of the reason they were even average was because of him. But yeah, that's why I have him at 6.
I guess I can put where'd he go? I could do everything you just did, move everyone back, and put Andy Kelly at 6.
Okay, see, Andy's in my top 5. That's why I hit number 6.
That's fine. So we'll start with number 5. For me, I put T. Martin, and one, he won a national championship. So you don't get excluded if you won a national championship, and so starting with that. But then 1-1 against Florida, and that's still while Spurrier was there, and then 2-0
Ended the
against
streak.
ended the streak, and then 2-0 against Alabama. Like there's just there are those things. But then looking at his numbers, when you look at yardage. Where did he end up ranking? I should have written it down. Written it down. Wait, written it down. Yeah, written
Written
it
it down.
down. And he's number 10 in yardage. Now I understand he only had 2 years, and if you give him 4 years, he's gonna be, flirting with guys like Clausen and Ainge. But still, he may have had some of the best supporting cast in school history around him. You had two of the top three, maybe even the two best running backs in your backfield, in Travis Henry and Jamal Lewis. And
Well,
so,
Jamal was gone after like the fourth game of the year, blew out his knee.
right, but still, like,
Yeah, he had both Travises. He had Travis Stevens and Travis Henry as well after Jamal Lewis got hurt.
correct. Thank
So
you.
your point still stands.
Some of the best receivers, even though in the 98 season it seemed like they dropped the ball, or 97 season it seems like they dropped the ball a lot. Side note, I'm rewatching or watching a lot of, or most of the games. I decided to skip over Kentucky and Vanderbilt in the 97 season because I was getting bored just watching Tennessee just dominate.
Telling
So
you should have started with the decade of dominance and got a whole overview and then watched the individual games. Just telling you that they should have done it.
maybe, yeah. So I'm currently watching not at this moment, but started the SEC championship game, and goodness, man, it like just I don't need a side. I'm not trying to side rail us, but Marcus Nash, holy cow!
I know.
So,
Dude was a stud.
anyways, so T Martin number 5 for me. Number 5 for you.
Number 5 for me would be. Hang on, I gotta. Would be Andy Kelly. Andy Kelly's number 5 for me. At the time, he was like when he graduated, he had the most wins all time, the most yards. Like he held basically every statistical record as a quarterback for the school.
Yeah.
I believe to this day he's still the only quarterback in Tennessee history to win 2 conference championships as a starter. As a starting quarterback. Led a massive. This is one you got to go back and watch. Okay, they'll talk about it in the decade of dominance. You need to go back and watch this game. He was a starting quarterback that led the comeback for the Miracle at South Bend.
Okay.
They were down.
Was that the 35-34 win against North? Or
35-34 win, and they were down like 24-0 or something like that, and came back and won.
Yeah.
But yeah, great quarterback. He had help around him. Carl Pickens, Tony Thompson, Aaron Hayden, Little Man. I can't remember. I don't think Little Man Stewart may have been right after him, but had some stud players around him. But yeah, definitely one of the best quarterbacks in school history. One that he held every considerable record by the time he left. Won multiple conference titles. So yeah, I got Andy Kelly as my number 5.
Yeah. So number 4, and this is where I think I will get very controversial, is I have Hendon Hooker at number 4. Now, before you roll your eyes or say recency bias, all these things,
Recency bias.
That's fine. I think that rewatching
TCU fan too.
Whatever. Rewatching a lot of these, or watching the 97 season, and I watched a good bit of 96 before I just skipped to 97. Peyton had a lot of overthrows, and that's not a critique on Peyton, but that is to say that I think one of the reasons immediately people are like, well, Hendon Hooker, he can't do blah, blah, blah. His offense, all this, Heupel, numbers inflated, all that. Hendon Hooker still had to execute Heupel's offense.
Do you know how hard it is to overthrow Jalen Hyatt? That's about the only guy he threw to that year.
Well, but Hyatt ended with only, 11 touchdowns? 12 touchdowns that year?
No, I think it was 14.
Okay, but and 5 of those came in one game. Like, I hear you, but I'm also saying that it wasn't like he didn't he threw to Brew, he threw to Squirrel, he threw to Keaton.
I think Brew only had 3 touchdowns that year.
Right, but also how many times when they got in the end zone did he just run it in? How many times did it get handed off to run it? Like, you're talking about the spots that you would use Brew the most. You ended up running the ball. So I think part of I don't. Hendon executed Heupel's offense the best that we've seen, and honestly, if Hendon had Joe, Nico, probably not Joey's defense, but Joe or Nico's defense to stop any sort of bleeding, you're talking about a team that's going to the playoff because they wouldn't lose.
I would say if he had Nico's defense, I don't know about Joe's. Joe's was, but
Yeah,
Nico's, yeah.
but like you would say that that defense was definitely statistically was much better. It was at least 20 spots better nationally, and there's that South Carolina game's a game where if Hendon had Joe's defense against South Carolina, then that game probably looks wildly different. That and if South Carolina didn't benefit from Michigan's cheating,
Didn't cheat. Boo! I'll go down my grave with that, believing that
they did or did not cheat.
that they did, that they cheated.
Oh, 100%. You're going to tell me that the two playoff teams that you have at the end of your schedule, you suddenly flip and are one of the greatest teams in the country?
You realize they didn't wear wristbands on
Yeah,
South
that
Carolina
part
students
too.
until the Tennessee game?
Yeah. So whatever, get out of here. So I think that and if that South Carolina game, if Hendon doesn't blow his ACL out, then it's wildly different. And honestly, if and I know in a previous episode I said that Hendon was not an elite overall quarterback, and we discussed like what does elite mean in college, and I agree with you. But it's one of those things where like I don't know about the other guys. I know about one of them, but Hendon may be the closest to a Heisman finalist that Tennessee's had since Peyton. So it's
Yeah, since Peyton, yes.
so it just all those reasons. That is a Tennessee. Hendon is one of the main reasons that team outperformed all expectations that year, and now has Tennessee in a spot where it is. And I think that just because he played for Josh Heupel should not discredit all that he's done. When you look at him, he's number 8 in Tennessee in school history in passing yards, and that is behind 7 guys that played more than 2.5 years as a starter. Josh Dobbs being that half year. But I mean, even Eric Ainge technically, so I guess 2 years. Ainge still had more time as the starter than Hooker did.
Sure.
So, and all that, and Hendon Hooker across essentially 2 seasons, you can say let's just round up, he had 2 full seasons, only threw 5 interceptions. Again, you can say that is system, that is Hendon checking down all the time, things like that. But Hendon Hooker is by far, like as far as interception percentage goes, it is him. You take him out, and then it's Daryl Dickey at 1.2% of his passes were interceptions, but Hendon's was 0.8. When you get into these other greats in Tennessee history, which that's not to take away from Daryl Dickey, but he played in the early 80s, you're looking at guys like Garantano starts, the more modern guys that are not Heupel's guys, at 2.1. Just to put that in perspective. Also part of the reason why he made my top 10. And, Heath Schuler was 2.3, Peyton was 2.4, Clausen was 2.4. So Hendon threw the ball a ton, but did not turn the ball over. And so for all those reasons, that and he was 500 against Florida and Alabama and was able to beat them in the same season, which some of these guys can't say that they were able to do. So anyways, all that to say, Hendon's number 4 for me.
I hear you. I don't agree. I mean, he's up there, right? Like, I don't necessarily think it's necessarily wrong. Like, I think you can, there's arguments to be made, like 1 through 6, who belongs in at what spots in like 1 through 6. My number 4 is T. Yeah, Andy Kelly 5, T Martin 4. Listen, national champion gets you in the top 5, I think. National champion where you weren't just carried to it.
Right.
Like, I mean, he contributed. Like, it wasn't like they were, like, he wasn't a hindrance at the quarterback position. Quite frankly, your argument for Garantano being in the top 10 would be my argument for T Martin should be higher than number, 6 for you? Number 5 for you?
He's 5.
Like,
top 5.
Because they wouldn't let him throw the ball his first 6 games. For whatever reason, they decided to open it up. I don't know if it's because Jamal got hurt. I don't know what it was. But they opened up the playbook. South Carolina, T Martin for years held the single game completion record in college football. He started, I think, 24-24 against South Carolina in 98.
Man.
Like, I mean, now obviously, kudos to receivers. You caught everything he threw at you.
Which you couldn't say for Peyton.
Yeah, but you have to put it where they can catch it.
Correct.
And they weren't just dumping everything down. It wasn't like checkdowns to the running backs. I mean, you go watch like even that like decade of dominance, like all the throws that he's making are, down the field-ish throws.
Right.
So like if they would have let him sling it, his numbers probably would have looked a little bit better. Now, I mean, listen, they went 14-0, won the national championship. You can't really argue with what they did that year.
Correct.
Obviously.
Correct.
Like he won a national championship. He led big time drives. He got him in field goal position for Syracuse. And I guess he kind of got him in field goal position for Arkansas. I can't wait for you to watch that game because you're really not familiar with that game, being a newisher fan. And I don't say that to give you a hard time, just in general, like
not
catching up.
All right, so just to clear the air on that, I have watched Tennessee games probably since 2010 when I was just like, hey, college football is incredible, but I did not watch them at the rate that I watch them currently. So,
and you weren't really a fan of anybody.
Correct.
Like you probably kept up with Tennessee more than anything just because you lived in Tennessee and all
Correct.
that stuff. Then you got on the Gary Patterson TCU train.
Yes.
Then you met me. Who kept up with Tennessee a little bit more while still being a TCU fan.
I have been to more Tennessee football games
Correct.
than any other sporting event in my life.
Yeah, sure.
And that was preseason tickets.
Yeah, sure. No, but so like you met me, I got you more involved in that while you were still kind of a TCU. Then TCU canned Gary Payton. Then
Patterson.
Alec realized that he was really more of a Gary Payton fan than he was a TCU fan.
Patterson.
Did I say Payton?
Payton, yeah.
Dude, what am I doing? Oh, you know what? I've been playing too much 82-0. That's my fault. Yeah, Gary Patterson fan.
And then I met my wife.
Yeah, but you were.
That was the final nail. That was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, but you were on the Tennessee trade at that point. You were going to games with me. It's hard to be a TCU fan when you can't go to any games. So you're still new to all this. You're learning the background and the history.
Correct, which is why I'm going back and watching everything because even this conversation I feel slightly out of my depth. But
yeah. So, but yes, I've got Team Art number 4, won a national championship, was more integral to that team than I think people want to admit or realize. So, listen, they didn't really turn the ball over. Like I said, got them in field goal, led multiple game-winning drives, ended the streak against Florida, got him in field goal range against Arkansas, even though I think he handed the ball off to Travis Henry like 9 times in a row, and they literally just ran the ball down the field because Arkansas couldn't stop it.
Right.
But yeah, ended that to. I want to say did he go 2-0 against Florida? Did they win in 99 or did they lose? No, they lost in 99. So went 1-1 as a starter against Florida.
2-0
lost to Arkansas in 99. Yeah. So yeah, I've got him at number 4. I mean, there's a street named after him on campus, for goodness sake. That's my number 4.
All right, moving to number 3. For me, I went Heath Schuler. Again, part of the reason why he's number 3 and not number 2 is what he do against rivals. 1-2 against Florida, 0-2-1 against Alabama, and that's not a like, hey, he sucks type thing. It's just more so if I'm looking for tie breaks, if I'm looking for reasons to rank them behind or ahead, that I put him there. He's one where I've seen clips and the option was still relatively new, not something that people enjoyed running, but they ran the option with Heath Schuler in the early 90s. And that was unheard of to put your quarterback in that kind of position, but mostly because they couldn't move. And I think it would be very interesting to see what he is like in today's football. And stats wise, I mean, he was good. He was up there with everyone else. Number 13 all time in passing yards. Again, that's still you put that in the context of the early 90s. That's pretty good. Following Andy Kelly.
And like you said, he used his legs a lot.
Right. And so, it's one of those things where I think that I think it'd be very interesting to see, he continued the dominance that had kind of been picked up by the Sugar Vols in the late 80s. It wasn't like there was this big gap between Andy Kelly and Peyton Manning because Heath Schuler was there to steady the ship, keep things going. And, I don't know. I think that when you look at him as a whole, I think he deserves to be at the 3 spot.
Well, he's like more than anybody. Like, and again, I can't speak so much on Conrad Holloway. But like Heath Schuler is the one that was like before his time.
Right.
Like I think we agree on 1, 2, and 3. Heath is my number 3. for sure. He was before his time. He was electric with his legs and with his arm. He came. I mean, he came in second in the. He had the. He came in second in the Heisman race.
Right.
In '93. So like he should have won it. And like I saw one article on him one time, and it's sad that this happened, but it's like you can't be considered one of the greatest busts in NFL history if you weren't great in college.
True.
And he was drafted number 3 overall and is considered one of the biggest busts in NFL history, which just speaks to how great he was at Tennessee.
Right.
I think if you put him in this offense today, I think it would be absolutely electric. I mean, he's really a 1993 version of probably somebody like a Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
So
no,
that's my number 3 for sure.
Well, then it's gonna get real boring because I have Casey Clausen at number 2, and again, trying to figure out tie breaks, things like that. 2-2 against Florida. Last quarterback outside of Joey Aguilar to win in Florida, win in Gainesville, and from there it's been a very difficult streak in Gainesville for Tennessee. But 2-2 against Florida, 3-1 against Alabama. Sure, you can throw the asterisk on there and say it wasn't. It was between the the great Alabama years, kind of their wilderness time, but still
doesn't matter though.
You went 3-1 against Alabama, and that is better than everyone except number 1, which we all know who number 1 is. But everyone except number 1 can't say that. And so I think that, you look at his numbers, he's number 2 all time in passing yards. And again, we're talking early 2000s. Like, it's not like this was just a time that a bunch of air was put under the ball, and so, when you are 75 touchdowns, 31 interceptions across your time as a 4-year starter with just under your 9,700 yards across your 4 years, like, that's just it speaks for itself. So Clausen, number 2.
Like, let me just read these stats to you. As a starter, 14-1 on the road. 14-1 on the road. 93% winning percentage on the road. One of only 2 ball quarterbacks to win more than 30 games. And a 4-year starter.
Which is also uncommon if you think about it. When we're talking about some of these guys, like, a lot of these guys were 3-year guys. The fact that Clausen was able to come in and immediately win the job is pretty impressive.
Well, and it took a couple games.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he was. And the only, like, we have a friend that I love dearly that refuses to put Casey Clausen at number 2. Quite frankly, I'm not even sure he's got Casey in his top 5.
Shout out Jeff.
And it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Cannot believe it. Because I just don't see how, like, if you don't want to put 2, I think you're wrong.
Right.
But maybe I can hear it because, you know what? For as good as all that is, the worst part about him was that he was 1-3 in bowl games. Like, postseason, he did not get it done.
Right.
Obviously, it's not just him; it's a team thing. But still, if we're putting all this other stuff, we will say in postseason games he was 1-3, and all they had to do was beat like an 8-5 LSU team in 2001 to go to the national championship game, and they lost.
Right.
Now, I think it's because Matty Malk could have thrown the ball with his feet that day, and he would have found his receiver. Like, it was just miserable. But that being said, Dante Stallworth catches a ball from Casey, is going to walk into the end zone. Can't wait for you to get to this game. He is going to walk into the end zone and fumbles the football because he's running too hard. It just comes out of his hands and LSU falls on it. Not touched. They're a good 3 yards behind him, and he is running and just drops the ball.
And people wonder where battered vault syndrome comes from.
Yeah. So, like, it's not all on him, but 1-3 in bowl games and not winning that year in 2001, like, that's the mark. That's the issue. That being said, he was part of the team that drained the swamp in 2001 when Florida was a top 5 team. He was 14, like we said, 14-1 on the road. I mean, the dude just was a stone cold killer. Nothing phased him. One of the best games ever. This will be a fun game for you to go watch. Was it 2001? I don't remember what year it was, but it was Tennessee playing on the road at Miami. They won 9-6.
Mm,
Miami had Sean Taylor, Kellen Winslow.
yeah,
I mean,
that
he was when
was
Miami was in their prime.
yeah,
And Tennessee went down to Miami and won 9-6. And Casey was a quarterback of that team. Like they just won big games, albeit regular season big games, but big games with Casey as a starting quarterback. And I just like that's number 2 for sure.
yeah.
He threw for over 9,000 yards, almost 10,000 yards. Yeah, I just that's number 2 on my list for sure.
That Miami game was 2003.
3, okay, yep, his
Yeah.
senior year.
So they also lost to Georgia and Knoxville 41-14 that year. Um,
Yeah, what happened to that game? I don't remember that game.
and Auburn 28-21.
The
At
Auburn game was tough. That's the year Auburn was so. I think Auburn won the Natty that year, or they played for it. They had Jason Campbell, they had Ronnie Williams and Cadillac Brown.
Mm,
Yeah, that Auburn team was loaded.
yeah. Yeah, I don't. It looks like Jason Campbell, Cadillac Williams. Yeah, he went for 185. If you have a running back go for $185, that's going to be really hard to stop.
Especially when they were both supposed to come to Knoxville, and Auburn lied to him and said that Tennessee was going on probation, and Tennessee never went on probation, and they went to Auburn instead.
Also, when you only have 4 rushing yards, you're going to
Yeah.
lose. And that's what
Yeah, that
Tennessee
was a
had
tough
that
one.
day. So, all right, moving on to the most obvious part of this podcast, which is Peyton Manning, number 1. It is astonishing, Logan, watching his senior year and honestly watching parts of his junior year as well. How many times his receivers dropped the ball? Looking at his numbers, and I'm saying this to elevate him even further. I would say 50%, no, 75% of the drops are not Peyton throwing the ball to the wrong spot or his guys just dropping the ball. To the point where I was like, Logan, we're talking about these guys as some of the best receivers in school history, and they can't catch anything. You have a converted quarterback being your most consistent hands for a couple games across the 98 season. And so, all that, and Peyton still was at 11,201 yards. And, I should have been the Heisman winner. I watching, I didn't watch the Kentucky and Vanderbilt game. Those were the last 2 games for the SEC championship. But, between that and the South Carolina game, that 98 year, I understand more. Not that I think it was warranted, but I see how people started going, is Peyton really supposed to be the Heisman winner? Da, da, da. But his whole body of work, he should have been the Heisman winner. But also, it was funny. In the Arkansas game, he joked with the play-by-play and the color commentators of that game that there's the curse on being the Heisman winner and how it prevents you from having a successful NFL career. He's like, well, maybe I shouldn't win it. And it's funny because they're like, well, maybe he shouldn't win it so that he can go be successful in the NFL. Well, then he goes on to not win it and be, I don't know, we're not an NFL podcast, but definitely a top 5 NFL quarterback of all time. In my opinion, which I know there'll be a lot of eye rolls to this. I know we're a Tennessee podcast. You give Peyton Tom Brady's situation in New
Peyton's
England.
number 1. I don't want to hear anything else of it. Peyton's number 1.
Yeah, Peyton had some of.
If the Heisman thing was real, Charles Woodson had a pretty good career. So of course that's the year that the Heisman curse is broken.
Correct, but it was just funny to hear them say that. So and it's just a generational defining quarterback as Peyton Manning. I don't know that there's a guy that has done more for a program or for the program since Tennessee, since he was here at Tennessee. And I don't know that there will ever be another. And that's not I don't think that's an exaggeration because, Tennessee has yet to have another quarterback go into the pros and have the career that that Peyton has had. And then that's more than just, when you get to the NFL, it is a lot about skill, but it's also a lot about your off-field stuff. Like, does Tom Brady have the notoriety that he does without his success? Like, Peyton was successful, maybe not winning Super Bowls, but because of what he could do off the field and things like that, he became one of the most popular athletes of his generation. And so all that to say, it goes back to, all the greatness that he did here and started here. And so I think that, it's a no-brainer for Peyton to be number one.
I mean, this probably doesn't belong in the argument, but it's just like when you're talking about an athlete that is the face of not even your football program, but he's the face of one of the faces of your university.
Yeah.
He's one of the faces of the game of football,
Yeah.
not just for you, for the game, NFL, college, anything. Everybody that has anything to do with football that has ever heard of football knows who Peyton Manning is.
Right.
Um,
More so than his dad. And his dad was an incredible quarterback.
absolutely, absolutely. So he's the greatest Manning for sure.
Yeah.
You know, the on-field stuff speaks for itself. Going in as a freshman against UCLA after, the guys in front of him get hurt, which is a terrible story because absolutely just blanking on the guy's name. Had waited his turn and blew out his first game. So here comes Peyton and Todd Helton share reps and stuff, which everybody knew Todd Helton wasn't going to the NFL. He was going to go play baseball, so that died off quick. But I mean, throws for 500 something yards and 6 touchdowns or whatever it was against Kentucky and loses ground in the Heisman race his senior year.
Right.
Like how many guys can you say their press conference to declare for the draft or come back to school, like is still remembered 30 years later?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was literally copied by Trey Smith when he announced he was coming back for his senior year.
Right.
All over the papers. I made up my mind. I don't expect to ever look back. I'm going to stay at the University of Tennessee. And then Trey Smith says that 25 years later.
Right.
Like, that's just the beginning of what he's done for that for the university. And, the Florida games, it's tough. They get down massive to Florida one year, then come back and then barely lose. Like, it was just some fluky stuff. Like, that's the greatest fault on his resume. That and the loss to Memphis in '96 was a bummer.
I would say the loss to Memphis is probably worse because at least with like Florida, you're talking about a
prime Florida with Steve Spurrier and everybody.
Yeah, a program defining run. Like obviously Saban and Alabama, that dynasty, it stood alone. Whereas Florida's dynasty in the '90s was competed with, it had competition with Notre Dame, with Penn State, with Nebraska, like Tennessee, like they were at the peak, and that program was doing something similar to what Saban was doing with Alabama. That just go ahead.
In that 4-year stretch, Florida went 4-0 against Tennessee. Like that was the time where that third Saturday in September or right around that time, it wasn't a for sure third, but that was decided the SEC East race for the year.
Correct.
The winner of that game went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, but those two are probably the worst blemishes on his resume. But I mean, they're pretty small compared to what his resume was. I mean,
right.
He was greatest thrower of the football probably in history of Tennessee football. I mean, he obviously was. He was the number one quarterback, but just everything he did, should have won the Heisman. Led them to their first SEC championship, like in Atlanta, I think. Because I think the SEC championship was founded in '93.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let him, got them their first one in '97 with that. Nebraska led them to a national championship. They just lost. They lost in '97 to Nebraska. Peyton had a bum ankle. And Brent Hubbs with VolQuest tells, I literally heard him tell this story. I don't know, probably 6 months ago now, but Nebraska was on a mission that year. Yeah. I don't know what had happened. I don't know if Tennessee had said something, but Nebraska got down there to the Orange Bowl on like Christmas Eve. Didn't spend Christmas with their families. They were down there in Miami. They practiced on Christmas Day, and they came out and Peyton was hurt bad enough where T. Martin played in that game.
Right.
So he led him to a national championship appearance. I think we're just kind of blabbering at this point. I don't think anybody has an argument to not have Peyton number one.
Yeah. No, and again, imagine what Peyton's numbers are if his receivers don't just blatantly drop balls. Yeah. Because I'm telling you, like, I don't know when the last time you went and watched some of the SEC games that don't matter, like the South Carolina game that year, or even the Kentucky, they started to tune things up. But like early on in that year, they dropped the ball, and then also they were turnover prone as a team. Whether that was Peyton throwing interceptions, which most of the time were deflections off drop balls, the running backs as a whole, put the ball on the ground a ton. Receivers put the ball a ton on the ground a lot. Now, that being said, that defense would typically get the ball back, but at one point in that year, their turnover margin was a -2. They were giving the ball away more than they were turning the ball over. So, it's Peyton was incredible, and Tennessee is where it is now because of Peyton Manning, and I don't think that's an overreach. Like, yes, Fulmer, they would have figured out things like that, but if you don't have Peyton Manning in Tennessee's football program history, I don't know that Tennessee football has the level of expectations that it currently does.
Sure.
But also that defense, insane. So maybe they do. So Logan, we are well over time. But if you are listening,
We got more positions to cover later on.
That we do. So we've got all off season to talk through, talking points and all of that, and we will. And so if hopefully you don't think that we're too stupid, well, really just me, because I think most people would agree with Logan's list. I think that some of the older heads are going to think I'm an idiot for ending at 4, but hey, I think the argument's there. So if you have thoughts, drop them in the comments. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next time. See ya.